what about innovation gets you? Like, why are you writing about innovation? Like, what about the subject matter, like, moves you enough to devote a big portion of your life to it?
When I left college, I couldn't imagine myself getting a sort of a regular job, a 9 to 5 job. And I wanted to live a life that was sort of my own design. And it wasn't until I ended up in the Bay Area and started working in startups that I saw that there was actually this entrepreneurial spirit that young companies actually can provide their employees. And so after a couple of years of working where managers were tossing me around like a hot potato because I didn't want to do things the way they wanted them done, I wanted to do things my own way. It wasn't until I stumbled into startups where that's the expected behavior that I sort of started thinking about this duality of execution-minded people and sort of this exploration-minded people. And really, it's kind of funny. I'm sure you can do this in your life when you can look back at your life and it seems like it's all over the map. And then you can find this thread that runs through your life. And that is my thread, is this duality of execution stuff, things that you have to get done, and this creativity and inspiration and these elements that I call the entrepreneurial spirit, or lots of people call entrepreneurial spirit or innovation spirit, and how we need that as a balance in our lives. And I say often that, we're born that way. We're born with this creativity and admitting when we don't know, and learning mode. We don't know how to walk, we don't know how to talk. And naturally, remember, we tell our kids, if at first you don't succeed, try again. And then by the time they're like trying to get into college, if they're not, acing their tests, and if they're not, completely forgetting all failure, no failure, you've got to be, perfect, so then we get into the companies and it's all this execution mindset, and everybody's afraid of failure, and they're afraid to admit when they don't know, and they're afraid of, showing vulnerability to colleagues or employees or to leaders. And so that's kind of where we find ourselves. And I talk about this stuff and I write about it because we live in an age where we need to bring back that childlike creativity and that entrepreneurial spirit. We need to do that in order to benefit the world. We need to do it to benefit ourselves. And so that's why I do it, is because I think that we can teach companies how to unleash that spirit. And what you get are employees that are happier and more productive. And maybe we can get these companies to then compete on creating value for consumers again, for their customers. And if companies are competing on creating value, then guess what that does? That actually improves people's lives. It's the promise of capitalism, right?